Hey everybody, welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. This is episode 256, being recorded on June 19th, 2013. I'm Ryan Schraub.
And I'm next, because Jeremy, we kicked him out. His passport was invalidated, his packets are no longer good across the border.
Yeah.
So I'm Josh Walrath.
I'm Alan Malventano.
And I'm Maury Titleman.
So we did have a last minute fill in. Maury connected when we had to disconnect Jeremy because he couldn't hear us, apparently. I think he was just making it up because hockey was on. It's weird. It's like all the video and audio was coming great from him, but for some reason he couldn't understand what we were saying. I bet he's got it on in the background now and he's laughing.
He and his cats are just smoking joints and watching hockey.
Watching
and drinking
hockey.
scotch.
No, well, that I just assumed that happened
Yeah.
24 hours a day. So how'd you guys do last week? Did you have fun without me?
It was like the clap.
Oh, so really fun.
Yeah, well, it was fun getting there.
You had a lot of
but,
experience
It wasn't
with
so
it, at
great
least.
afterwards.
Well, at least, like I said, at least you have a lot of experience with it, so it was something you were comfortable with. I'll talk a little bit about E3 just real quickly since I know you guys covered most of the things that I wrote up from the show when we get into our news section, but let's go ahead and talk about a couple of articles and reviews that went up. It was actually kind of a busy, interesting news week from the world of hardware. First up for me is I published an article looking at the NVIDIA GeForce GTX 780M mobility graphics. So this is, we actually got sent an MSI GT60 laptop, which is not on the first page, but you can see here in that pretty little icon, that featured the new highest end single GPU configuration from NVIDIA, the GTX 780M. From a spec perspective, this is a 1536 CUDA core design, which is basically the same performance level, same core count level as a GTX 680 desktop card. So that's something, that's impressive. Although the clock rates are obviously lower. This runs at 823 megahertz, but does implement GPU boost, which is nice. The memory clock runs at 5 gigahertz instead of 6, so that's lower as well. But it's still a 256-bit memory bus. They support up to 4 gigs of memory. Ours was using 2 gigs of memory. And it's, like I said, it's got GPU boost 2.0 and that kind of stuff. One thing that's interesting, this slide gives you an idea how NVIDIA's market share in discrete notebook graphics has been pretty impressively growing.
Tremendous.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at, on this side, we're talking about Q4 2011. I don't remember what parts were out then. I guess that would have been the 400 series parts. No, that would have been the 500 series parts, right? I don't know. It's hard to tell.
2011? Sure.
They just rename things all the time in the world of mobile graphics, so it doesn't even really matter what the numbers are. But yeah, the Capital Orange you can see there in Q2 2012, and since then, the power efficiency of these chips has always been one of their big impressive points, even on the desktop side. So on the mobile side, it just makes sense that they would.
It's
gain that,
too
right?
bad we cannot see the absolute numbers in these markets because
Yeah.
Intel finally has decent integrated graphics. AMD has better than average graphics. So it'd be kind of curious to see. I bet it's probably just like in reality a straight line in terms of numbers actually sold.
Right, because I do believe that the discrete add-in market is shrinking, but if that market is shrinking, NVIDIA is grabbing more of that kind of shrinking pie, right? So these are percentage numbers on this graph, not raw numbers like you're saying. So, but with Ivy Bridge, NVIDIA's GPU team, mobile GPU team, really wanted to push the idea of, hey, you can get a discrete GPU in a fairly thin and light system without having to go overboard with cooling solution that's going to be better than Ivy Bridge graphics, and you can do it without breaking the bank, and the benefit on the gaming side would be tremendous. And there's a lot of good implementations of that, like, for example, you guys talked about it last week, the Razer Blade machine that is a really sleek design, fairly slim, kind of like a MacBook Pro look to it, and it integrates a GTX 760M part, which has 768 CUDA cores running at 657 megahertz. Definitely significantly faster than Haswell integrated graphics. They're able to do it in a slim design. Obviously, if you're running the GPU, the battery life is going to be significantly lower. But if you're not running gaming, the battery life of that machine is still in the 6-hour range, they say. So that's that's good news. But this particular part is the ultimate high end. This will be in, you know, the Alienware machines, the Falcon Northwest machines, this MSI GT 60 notebook as well. I had it sitting here around somewhere, but it's not really that important. We're doing a full review of it as well. It's a big laptop. It's a 15.6-inch screen, but it's fairly thick in terms of its design. It's actually a really nice machine. I like, what's the keyboard brand they use on their laptops? SteelSeries. Yeah, it's actually a really nice keyboard. But we wanted to look at, just real quickly, let's do an overview of performance, and also as kind of an interesting twist. This is the first time that I know of, I think anybody has ever done the kind of the frame rating, the capture method, smoothness testing, style performance evaluation on mobile GPUs. So I was able to compare the GTX 780M to the Radeon HD 7970M. The 8970M has been announced. I don't think it's actually out yet. If it is, I definitely don't have a machine with it on there. But you can see like this, the 7970M machine is actually an Alienware build, and the 680 is this MSI system. Now there are different processors. It's Ivy Bridge down here and Haswell up here. That means that there will be some differences, but the performance implications for single GPU configurations going from Ivy Bridge to Haswell are very minimal, if anything, to be honest with you, because the Ivy Bridge was actually running at a higher clock speed than the Haswell part. So let's go ahead and jump into, let's see, a couple of results here. We can start with Dirt 3. And we tested these only at a single resolution just because both of these screens were native 1920 by 1080. We obviously had to use external outputs out of the screens in order to send it into our capture technology and, you know, generate all this data and information for you guys. But it all worked surprisingly well. And what we found was, you know, it's still a single GPU. We used the latest driver from AMD and the latest driver from NVIDIA. I think it was 320.21 for NVIDIA and 13.6 beta for AMD. So the most recent drivers on these. And as it turned out, the 780M, here you go, you can see Dirt 3, it is noticeably faster, going from 70 frames per second average to about 81, 82 frames per second average. No real issues, no concerns with any kind of frame timing, frame rates, frame latency issues, anything like that. If you look at Skyrim, also running at 1080p, you can see here our observed frame rate. The 780M is faster, but this is kind of interesting. We actually did see some significant changes in the frame pacing of the 7970M, which is the orange line here, and the 780M, which is the blue line here. So even though these are single GPUs, even though you can see the frame rates are pretty decent, and the frame time variances are still relatively good. Like you can see that the 780M frame variance never really gets above 2 milliseconds, but the frame variance in the 7970M actually goes above 5 or 6, and that's when it actually starts to become fairly noticeable in your gameplay. And you can see in our frame time data there what that actually looks like. We tested Sleeping Dogs. We also tested 2 new games, just because it's a lot easier when you only have to test 2 parts as opposed to like 6 or 8. BioShock Infinite at 1080p. Here you can see the performance delta. The 780M is definitely faster. Both of these had some issues with spikes in frame times, I guess I'll say, kind of like hitches. Though the NVIDIA, in this case, the 780M, had more of those than the 7970M, and this was a consistent thing we saw over many runs through our manual benchmarking run. The average frame rate was higher in the 780M, but it did have more instances of these kind of spikes in frame time. But no, on average, no huge frame variance issues. And then Metro Last Light, another solid win for the 780M over the 7970, and a little bit of frame variance you can see here, but you know, again, nothing dramatic that way. So, and I think the last little data point I'll show you is power consumption. This is something we should all take with a grain of salt, because we are talking about totally different platforms here. This, you know, the 780M is an MSI system with Haswell, and this is a Ivy Bridge system. So the you know, the idle power numbers show you a big difference. Like, this is what happens when you have a generational shift. You took 45 watt basically at idle on the Alienware M17X to 27 watts on that GT60. That's pretty big. Would indicate battery life improvements if we were actually testing that on these machines. We're going to test that a little bit later. But in terms of load, power consumption, it's actually pretty close. But again, there's just too much variance in the platform to really consider that a really, really important point at this juncture. Here's that MSI system. Pretty nice looking rig. They've actually done a very good job of kind of entering the gaming notebook markets. So that's it. The 780M was pretty obviously the fastest mobile GPU out there. Passing out the 680M, slight modifications to that. The 8970M is a very slight upclock of the 7970M from AMD, so I don't imagine that change is going to give them the edge, is they're going to be able to claim the fastest mobile GPU or anything like that because of the thermal constraints of these notebook platforms, right? I mean, you can get away with the 7970 gigahertz edition being faster than the 680 at the same price because it can draw more power. You can't really do that with the same flexibility in the mobile front. So if you're looking to buy a, like kind of a DTR, desktop replacement laptop, gaming laptop, 780M is a good choice, and it's finding its way into a lot of machines. This MSI GT60, the new Alienware M17 and M18X refreshes have the 780M in there as an option as well. So there you go.
It's kind of amazing to me because previously they'd always used kind of the mid-range as the high end of the mobile market.
Yep.
But yeah, they're able to use the Kepler architecture, even at lower clocks. But still, that's a lot of of power.
Some negative Nancy's might argue, Josh, that GK104 is the mid-range of this generation, and that's how it was always supposed to be. And you might even be able to consider it now that we have the 780, which is a GK110 part, and the Titan, that is a GK110 part, that maybe this is like the first step down. But I agree, it's still impressive that this is essentially the same GPU that's in a GTX 680 and a GTX 770 in a mobile form factor.
A GTX 680 was 175, 180 watt TDP part at full speed.
Yep.
And you're not down all that much in terms of clock speed in this mobile part.
Yeah, I think the GTX 680 was 1006 megahertz, and this one was what, 800 and something? I said
823.
Yeah. So you bend the parts correctly, you get a good mix, and they have the chance there to. I mean, it's the fastest GPU, and it's not like drawing 400, 200 watts while it's doing it. So it's good news. It's good news. I'll be curious. We're expecting a MSI machine to come in that uses Richland plus the 8970M. So we'll be able to kind of have an interesting comparison there, both in the CPU front and the GPU front, which could be interesting. Lee is on like a month-long vacation, but he left me with a couple of reviews to pass on to everybody. The first one is of a power supply called the Dark Pro 10 850 watt power supply from a company called Be Quiet! ! This is, as Lee writes in this review, has been a market leader for power supplies in Germany for 7 years straight, and they are bringing their top-of-the-line Dark Power Pro 10 series to North American markets. Are you surprised that a company called Be Quiet would be based in Germany? Anybody?
Achtung!
Yeah, exactly.
Pay attention. Be quiet.
It actually was a very good unit. $239 is a little steep, but it is German, as Ken points out. It's German, so you pay for that. It's like getting an Audi or a BMW or a Mercedes, right? You're paying for that quality.
Or an Opel. Don't forget Opel.
Right. Yeah. But the only weakness he found in it was still a little expensive compared to other 850 watt units, which it definitely is. Up to 70 amps on the 12 volt line, so we can get into that whole joke about what is it, soldering? Arc welding, something like that.
Welding.
Thank you. Low AC ripple, even at 100% load, and support for 4 case fans with automatic speed control. That's kind of cool. So yeah, check out that review. We have another one lined up for next week for power supplies. He continues to pump these out. If you are in the market for a new power supply, make sure you check out our case cooling and power section of the site. A lot of good stuff in there.
Hey Ryan, one neat thing that I noticed with this review was that it actually came with a switch on that. I think it was in a rear panel thing that you could actually switch between single rail and multi rail for the PSU, which is not a very common thing. I mean, about somewhere 2 to 5 years ago, everything was multi rail, and now most PSUs are single rail. So having, I don't know why you'd want to go back to multi rail, but having the option is
Yep.
a very unique feature.
Yeah, he says the lone 3-pin white socket labeled OCK is used to set the power supply to either single or multi 12-volt rail mode. While with nothing connected, the power supply will operate in multi-rail mode. Plugging in the small jumper or connecting the PCI bracket will disable the individual 12-volt rail OCP circuits and enable single rail mode. Caution, only connect the jumper switch or change the switch position when the power supply is turned off. Don't switch modes when the power supply is running. This sounds like very
Don't cross the stream.
important. Yes, exactly. This sounds like very important words to heed. Next up, Maura, you posted another review of a Gigabyte Z87 motherboard, the Z87X UD3H. Tell us a little bit about this board. This is kind of on the, I don't want to say the low end, but the more mainstream price segment of their lineup, right?
Yeah, this is basically their mainstream board. This is one of the first ones they've released around the Z87. It's a nice board. The coloration on it's got a decent coloration. They went with a kind of black, blue, and gray color scheme, which is about the normal thing. They offer, it's got all the things you're expecting with it. It's got three X16 slots.
Mm-hmm.
It's got
3x1 and a legacy
3x1
PCI.
slots, and it's even got a PCI slot for all you guys that still are hanging on to all your old PCI. That was the one thing that I really wasn't expecting, because I haven't seen a PCI slot on a.
Well, remember this
for
chipset
years.
doesn't actually have PCI support built into it, so they had to add an extra IC onto the board in order to add PCI support. So
That is true. That is true.
That's a little bit of effort.
This motherboard, though, the nice thing, even though it's a mainstream motherboard, it does have all the good power stuff on it. It comes with their what they call, I'm getting this confused. I think it's 4 digital 4.
Words coming
Shoot.
out of your mouth.
Yeah,
Make it happen.
I don't remember what the. Let me see here. Sorry.
It's almost like they have the.
I'm sorry. It's what they call ultra durable 5 plus technology, which is basically they use the black caps that are rated at, I think they're either 10K or 500K hours, which is beyond anything you'll ever use a motherboard for.
Yeah.
They have the I believe it has the International Rectifier MOSFETs. It's got 8 power phases on it.
Yep.
It's got they point out that it's got a 15 micron gold-plated CPU socket. They also have an enhanced gold layer in the PCB. I believe it's, or not gold. I'm sorry, not gold, copper. They have an enhanced copper layer in the PCB. So even though this is the mainstream board and it is a lower model than the OC Force or the Sniper or even the 5H,
Yeah.
they did not skimp on the power delivery system stuff.
Cool.
You can see there in the pictures. I did the normal thing with the big cooler, the Noctua DH14, I think that is. But
I don't know. It's big.
Just like there's plenty of space. This is a solid board. This is a really solid board. No surprises here.
Anything
But this
new
is,
in the BIOS
among
on
the-
this?
Yep. Oh, I'm sorry, Ryan.
I was saying, anything new like in the BIOS UEFI, which I still hate that acronym.
Yeah, the BIOS is what is it? Gigabyte did introduce some major changes to their BIOS. They went from calling the old terminology of the BIOS used to be the 3D BIOS. They basically now have a multi-mode BIOS. They have the base mode that you go into, which is pictured here, is called the dashboard mode, and basically it's a visual mode that you can either use the sliders, you can actually type in amounts on the screen, or you can use the pull downs if it supports pull down values. You can. There's several cases where you can actually turn on and off the sliders there. It features, just like on the Asus boards, it features you have that home screen where you can put basically your own settings in there and customize screens.
Do you find it interesting that basically all the vendors came up with like the same idea at the same time for these like custom home screens, these custom like favorites tabs and that kind of stuff?
No, I think just when there's only so many paths you can take to innovation. So every vendor has their own little tweaks to it. The really neat thing with the Gigabyte board is I don't have pictures of it here because I couldn't get it to run in HD mode, but if you can actually make the BIOS run in high def mode, which basically means instead of running at the stock 1024 by 768, you can actually get it to run at 1080p. And it actually adds dials and
you get like monitoring information on the side. Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. I'm gonna, I will with the future Gigabit board reviews that will be coming out next week or so, a couple weeks. I will try to make sure we get pictures of that, so you can see that. But what they do, basically every Gigabyte board is going to have that style BIOS. They're just going to change up the colorations. The OC Force is going to be colored with a orange type background, like kind of a fire thing. The Sniper and the gaming line will have the standard green background thing, and that's how they're going to differentiate the BIOS lines. I don't know for sure yet whether in the OC Force, whether the OC Force BIOS has enhancements in it. I'm assuming it does, but right now, actually, I have that on my test bench right now. So when the review's out, we'll be able to tell you for sure about that.
So what's the takeaway of this product then? It looks like it's priced at about $170 to $180 depending on where you buy it. I mean, is it a good option for somebody that wants to build a Haswell machine? Does it need maybe all the bells and whistles that we saw like on the Maximus Extreme option?
Yeah, no, definitely. If you're looking to build a Haswell machine, you're not looking for all the bells and whistles. You don't need the 20 power phases of the mPower, or you're not looking to spend $300+ on the OC Force or on the Asus Maximus 6 or whatnot. This is a nice solid board that will give you really good performance.
All right.
The BIOS, one thing I did note in the review that I did run into is that the BIOS is still slightly mature on this board. I'm not sure about the OC Force and all yet, but on this board I did run into some hiccups with the BIOS where the primary BIOS chip actually it started getting corrupted, and it got corrupted to the point where I could not use the board. Luckily, with their OC switch technology, I was able to switch to the backup BIOS, and my problems went away. But I would not hold that against the board. I think that is just a symptom of just the BIOS being so new. So don't let that necessarily flavor your opinion of the board.
It would be nice to have things working when it's shipping, but if you want to give them some flexibility to kind of get it all cleaned up, I guess that'll work too. So we have more Z87 reviews coming, I assume, Maury. It's like that stack never goes away.
Yeah, we have plenty. We're gonna have, as I said, I'm working on one from another one from Gigabyte. We just got one in from ECS. I'm gonna go back and look at a couple of the previous reviews. Just some highlights. The Griffin. I'm gonna do some in-depth testing on the thermal armor kit. I'm gonna take a look at the Asus Maximus 6 Extreme and the OC Force, and do a lot of overclocking and stuff on those. So there's going to be some really cool stuff coming out in the next month or so.
It's going to be Maury's Motherboard Emporium for the next 6 months.
Yeah.
I can't wait. Literally, I can't wait. I'm going to have to, because I have to read them all and edit them.
Look, it's a Z87 that performs identically to the previous Z87.
Performance,
different
yes.
color scheme.
Oh man, we got so many color schemes. Is that, hey Maury, is that ECS one all gold by chance?
No, actually. Well, let me.
Oh man, it's got a
Fail.
dust shield.
No dust shield.
If it had a dust shield, we'd have to test it. Do you have drywall
No,
nearby?
here's a wait. Here's a thing you can kind of see it. They actually went with a kind of a decent color scheme. It's black and red. It's got some chrome highlights.
I'm
and I
sorry.
think
Wait.
they
No.
colored the
No.
caps gold
Bring it
or
back.
something.
Bring it back.
Bring that
it back.
box back. Bring that box back.
Bring
Sorry.
the box back.
Just,
Oh yeah,
just
you
the
wanna
front of the
see
box.
The name of the,
I
the
just
gank machine. Look at that.
that is called the Gank machine.
Yes.
GANK.
And Jetway next week is going to release the Skank
us all.
machine.
God.
Yeah, ECS marketing is a little bit funny.
Oh, Gank machine.
Skank.
Lost in translation somewhere.
It'll stink up your box. Oh, sorry.
Scott also posted a little article today that looked at the new announcement from Adobe. They released the Creative Cloud Edition. Is that what it's called? Like Photoshop CC, Premiere CC. I don't know what they follow that up with, but they don't ever. That's right, because this is the cloud version. You only need one version ever. Keep paying us money. So what's interesting from this, from like a performance standpoint and a hardware standpoint, is that much more of the suite actually utilizes OpenCL now. As Scott writes in his little editorial / story here, the interesting points being how OpenCL is changing the landscape between Intel and AMD, what GPU support is curious, or what GPU support is curiously absent from Adobe CC for one reason or another. I think he means specific graphics cards or GPU support, and which GPUs are supported despite not existing officially. I think that's because they mentioned the 8970 and their supporting documentation there. So it's interesting about this kind of shift from Adobe and AMD. It's not really an AMD sponsored thing, because when I went to go see Haswell for the first time, Adobe was there. They were showing off Premiere. They were showing it off working with OpenCL, and the performance acceleration you get with OpenCL can be pretty dramatic. But what's interesting is AMD has always been the proponent of OpenCL for many, many, many years. Back before Intel was even thinking about implementing an OpenCL stack for graphics implementation, when it was just AMD or ATI versus NVIDIA. When NVIDIA came out with CUDA, AMD had OpenCL, which was AMD didn't have OpenCL. OpenCL is like an open ecosystem. Is that the Kronos group? That's Kronos group.
Yes.
Thing. And AMD kept pushing OpenCL and pushing it, but developers were slow to adopt it, and everybody's been slow to adopt it until Intel says, hey, we're going to do OpenCL in our integrated graphics, in our processor graphics. And that suddenly gets people's attention. So now we get Adobe releasing a whole lot of applications that support OpenCL. And this will actually benefit AMD, I think, fairly dramatically. And, some of the numbers, I don't know if, let's see, if he links to the AMD blog on here. He did not. I don't see it. But the AMD did comparisons of, I think it was Trinity up against Ivy Bridge 3470, I think, and it was a significant performance advantage. They did not test it against Haswell, which I think will be even more
2.4 times.
2.4x.
Yes.
That's a pretty high X. So, we were debating in here, like, can we test this? How easy is this going to be to test reliably? We need to start getting a list of what features were actually OpenCL accelerated, which were not, which kind of effects were actually OpenCL accelerated, and which were not. So, I think it'll be really interesting, and this is potentially a very, very good place for AMD to be, right? They've been the graphics leader for a long time. Haswell Graphics is catching up quite a bit, but Richland and Trinity still have the edge.
At least on the desktop.
Definitely on the desktop. On the mobile side, it will all depend on where the HD 5000 and where the Iris and Iris Pro kind of graphics fall in line. And we have a little bit that we'll talk about with that next week when actually if you check back the site tomorrow, we'll have the MacBook Air 2013 review up that Ken wrote. And it'll have a little bit of information there on graphics, and then we're actually doing a frame rating story of some integrated graphics as well that will be quite interesting to see. But check out that editorial from Scott. It's really interesting kind of look at what that move to OpenCL could mean for AMD and Intel. Probably not so much importance for NVIDIA at this point. There is still CUDA support in there. I do want to point that out. Like they were adamant to Adobe was like, yeah, we didn't like take CUDA support out of it, but expect CUDA to be updated less and less frequently until OpenCL becomes basically the right. Yeah. So, do we have an ad break this week, Ken? All right, Josh, do a dance for us.
The details of my life are quite inconsequential.
Usually it's Josh that wheezes like that when he laughs, but I was pretty sure it wasn't him. So, speaking of NVIDIA, let's talk with Josh about NVIDIA. I think a fairly important announcement was made today or yesterday?
Yesterday.
About NVIDIA entering the world of licensing their IP, particularly their graphics IP. I guess that's all they have. Graphics IP in a way that we maybe have not heard from them before. And it was interesting before, just like the immediate response was either, nobody cares, or NVIDIA is leaving the hardware business. And I don't think either of those are the correct kind of mental paths to take about this announcement. But tell us what you thought about the chances, not the chances, but the reaction to AMD offering up Kepler IP for licensing.
You mean NVIDIA offering up?
What did I say?
AMD.
If AMD were to
AMD
offer
has
up
already
Kepler
offered
for
up their
licensing,
goods, if you know what I mean.
I think AMD would do that if they could. I think they would
They
license
have.
NVIDIA's
It's called their
technology.
semi-custom design unit.
Okay. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry,
Because
NVIDIA.
they're licensing to Sony and Microsoft and Nintendo, which is a kind of big thing for them.
Right.
But we're not talking about AMD. We're talking about NVIDIA. So yeah, they came out yesterday. They're like, we're gonna license out our IP. If somebody's interested, we can give them the designs, the specifications, everything they need to know to be able to integrate NVIDIA IP onto their product. Now they're aiming this primarily at mobile. This is not going to be like AMD comes in and says, "So, I hear you got a little Kepler for us." No, it's not going to happen. But somebody like Samsung or Rockchip, they can come in and say, "Hey, we're tired of this Imagination Technologies Power VR crap. We don't want to deal with ARM Mali because they never update their drivers. Hey, NVIDIA, who has kind of the gold standard in driver What the hell is my cat doing back there?
Don't worry about it. Don't turn around.
Too late. You didn't see the 666 tattoo on the back of my head there? No. I was talking about what?
Rockchip.
Rockchip. Samsung. I mean, these would be two guys who would license the IP because they have a choice of either getting Imagination Technologies, the Power VR stuff, or the ARM Mali. And if they want a little bit more performance, perhaps, better driver support, potentially more OpenCL and /CUDA support, then they can license this IP from NVIDIA. And, I'm sure somebody probably will. I mean, Rockchip, they're licensing multiple technologies from different vendors. And, it's something that they probably are looking in. They're one of the biggest chip producers in China.
So two questions I have for you on this. One is, do you think AMD already has that first... it did again. Do you think NVIDIA has that first customer lined up, and that's why they're making this announcement? Do you think this is something they would have announced just like as their announcement to the rest of the world? Like, hey, guys, come on, we want to play too? Or do you think they have something lined up?
These guys are pretty savvy. You've dealt with them for a lot of years.
Well-
Yes, they've had a mistake now and then. But when you think about what they've announced and what they've actually produced, it's kind of in line. I mean, sure, Jensen Huang with the original Fermi. Remember that board where he held up and then
With the
somebody took a
screws.
picture of the back and it was actually sawed off and had a strange cover. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Those are
yeah,
great
I think
times.
that they've probably been in discussions with other people to gauge
Interest.
interest
Yeah.
and demand for this IP, and there certainly will be because there's a lot of good technology. There's a lot of background in it. There's a lot of software support, and it's got a pretty good track record in the PC and mobile markets. So, you know,
Right.
it's not a knee-jerk reaction,
Okay.
but it certainly is somewhere that they are a little bit slower on the uptake as compared to everybody else.
Do you-
ARM, of course, was one of the first really major, well, maybe not one of the first, but anyway, really in the modern computing world, they're one of the first major licensors of technology to anybody who wants it. And look at the position they're in now. They're not making a huge amount of money as compared to these $1 billion a quarter companies, but their profit margins are really, really high because all they do is develop the technology. They don't have to invest in manufacturing. They only have to do a certain amount of software, but you know they license to everybody who comes, and it turns out to be, you know, hundreds of millions of products shipped a year
Right.
that they're getting royalties from.
So, do you? So we can assume that the kind of, I'll say, the hooks for implementation of this IP with other IP have been built in there from the beginning because they always planned on using Kepler for their own SoCs at some point down the road, right? But does this indicate to us that there's something wrong with the Tegra line, that it's not as successful as they wanted? You know, it seemed to me that the reason NVIDIA got into the Tegra line with the whole idea of it was, we have this IP. We think it's the most important asset in the world. It's obviously the most important asset that we have. And we're going to make an SoC around it, and people are going to buy it because our graphics IP is so awesome. And now if they're willing to say, hey, you guys want this? You guys, hey, we'll let you borrow it for a certain amount of money. Does that mean that Tegra is a failure? That it's not performance-wise slow, but slow on the uptake?
Well, yeah, a lot of these manufacturers have pretty tight relationships with other guys, whether it be TI, who's kind of bowing out of the game, Qualcomm, who really is the dominant figure in this market, and then other guys like Samsung, Rockchip. I think MediaTek is another name that's been bounced around. They all have pretty solid ties with a lot of the end product manufacturers. And so it's hard to break in. And I think obviously Tegra has not taken off as well as NVIDIA would have liked. And there are multiple reasons for that. They're a little bit slow on the uptake in advanced process technology. They essentially sold out the 28 nanometer space on their graphics parts and kind of ignored Tegra. And when guys like Qualcomm came in and bought all kinds of 28 nanometer space for Crate, and we've got 2 generations now under 28 nanometers from them, you can see that NVIDIA is not, they're a little slow on the uptake, and it's kind of hard to see where the problem lies because we don't know the exact details of their manufacturing contracts with TSMC and whoever else is out there that has more advanced process technology. And so, you know, who's to say, but Tegra has not sold nearly as well as they were hoping. And part of that is we're looking now at the Adreno 300 series. That's full DX11 OpenGL ES 3.0 compliant. We talked to the guy from ARM a couple of weeks ago. The latest Mali 600 series, again, DX11 OpenGL ES 3.0 compliant.
Yep.
And NVIDIA is sitting there with their latest Tegra 4 with a graphics portion that is still DX9_3 OpenGL ES 2.0. and essentially it's a GeForce 7000 series GPU. It's slightly more advanced. It's got separate pixel and vertex shaders. They don't have any geometry shaders. Nothing like that.
Also, take
It's,
into account we saw today the Snapdragon 8. Was it the 800?
800.
600?
It's a
One of those.
monster chip. I mean, it pulls a little bit more power,
Yeah.
but I mean, you're
Look at the
looking
performance
at
out of
what the Apple iPad 4
A6.
Performance Plus.
Yeah.
Yeah, the A6. It's. I mean, this is the part that NVIDIA wanted to have, but they were unable to produce and get out. Now, whether that's in terms of economics, design teams, where they wanted their design focus, they've shut down their chipset business. They rolled that into their ARM, but graphics is still what is selling the most for NVIDIA.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that they probably could have skewed some engineering talent over to the other side and have been better off, especially with the Tegra 4, Tegra 4i, because they're just not as advanced as they kind of need to be as compared to what Qualcomm is offering right now.
Gotcha. It's a very interesting change in the market, and I didn't know anything about it. Had no kind of inkling, rumor mill about anything like that. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how they respond. Right. So the Project Shield it's not Project Shield anymore. NVIDIA Shield is done. It's shipping. It's going to be shipping soon. I don't know. It's an interesting place they are in now, and it's kind of almost feels like a dramatic turn.
Yeah,
for
well,
their whole
one
segment.
last thought
Yeah.
to throw in here. How many of the products that you buy or major appliances or anything are going to have advanced computing power, going to have LCD, OLED displays, whatever, and they're going to be needing to be driven by something? And I think this is what NVIDIA is looking at. It's like, you know what? We could try to be everything to everybody, but we're going to fail at that. We can try to do a niche, but we're not going to make as much money as we potentially could. So we're going to design our products. We're going to put out these ones, but you know what? If we also license out some of our IP, we're going to get more money in because we simply cannot provide the billions and billions of chips that are needed for the marketplace in the coming years.
Yeah, there's just all kinds of things that are swirling that I can't quite grasp. Like the idea that, remember when NVIDIA announced that they were going to make reference design tablets and reference design phones based around Tegra? Whatever happened to that stuff, right? Like that was like this. That was their push. Well, we can't get these OEMs to use our chips. We'll make our own full product, ship it out, and we'll put it directly in the hands of people so they see how much better our products are. And those don't exist. Like maybe Shield kind of came from that mentality, but other than the Nexus 7, that's as close to a reference machine as you can get, I guess, from a Tegra standpoint. So I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, and there are multiple other arguments that I have in my article, so you need to read it, comment on it, tell us where we're wrong or where we're really freaking wrong.
Or totally right. Before we move on to the next bits of news, I wanted to quickly sum up E3 from my perspective. I know you guys talked about it. The cool things that I saw, like the new Oculus Rift with the 1080p screen, still made me sick, but looked much better. So that's a plus. Talked with him for quite a while about why it was making me sick and it was an interesting discussion because it wasn't just like, well, the latency is slow, we need to fix that, or the resolution is low, we need to fix that, or the resolution of the actual sensors was too low or something like that. It was a combination of all of those things plus the software. There was a demo from CCP, what the hell was it? EVR, that was using the Oculus Rift as a kind of simulator in Eve, and it just apparently any people that were felt motion sickness previously were not getting it in this way, and it's because of things like you're always moving forward. You never have this back and forth motion, stop go. You're looking around, but as an entity, you're always moving forward. Also, there's very static HUD elements, like the A-frames of the ship and the cockpit that you're in and that kind of stuff were always there, and it kind of gave you some grounding for your vision and your brain to kind of adapt to it. So it's interesting that he said it's a combination of hardware, it's a combination of software, and it's them going to have to work with game developers to try to find the perfect mix. So that was kind of cool. Met with Monoprice, talked about their displays. They've been a huge success for them, which is great to see. Plus, anytime we can get more 25 by 14 monitors in people's hands, I'm a big supporter of that. What else did I see? I got to play with Shield, right? I spent a good amount of time playing with the NVIDIA Shield device, both in terms of Android gaming and PC stream gaming. Now, I have to say that we weren't doing wireless streaming because we were on the show floor. Wireless networks tend to not work very well in any kind of exhibit hall show floor where there's thousands and thousands of people walking around with wireless hotspots. So we were using a wired connection, and it actually worked really, really well. And we were playing at 720p, but on a small screen. 720p looks great. The controller is changed around a little bit, and it feels solid. It's weighted correctly, like, it doesn't feel like it's going to tip over or it's too heavy in your hand. There's a lot of really cool things to like about the device. The Android games, were interesting. I played one that made the most sense, like Sonic the Hedgehog was on. It was the same Sonic that came out on the Wii recently, I believe, is playing on this device. And when you play it on a tablet, you've got the fake thumbsticks, twin thumbstick control or whatever, or just one thumbstick. But virtual thumbsticks just don't work for me, and I think for a lot of people they don't work for gaming. Having the actual physical controller really made it a totally different game that kind of had both side by side there. So I'm still tepidly excited about Shield. I think it could do some really cool stuff. The idea of being able to stream from my PC using a GeForce card to this device anywhere in the house is kind of cool. In the same way that being able to play your Wii U games on the Wii Pad, is that what it's called? Wii U Pad? I don't know, the gamepad screen, like while somebody else is using the TV or you're upstairs or whatever, is pretty cool. Like it's the same idea there, but you're getting access to, in my opinion, better quality games, which is nice. And then the ability to maybe stream that through Miracast to a TV, all wirelessly, that's kind of still up in the air for launch, but pretty cool stuff if they can get it to work. So I want them to get it to work because I think it's something I'd like to try. Although I feel like there was something else I missed from E3 that I wanted to mention. The Razer Blade, we talked about that a little bit earlier. Really nice machine. Hoping to get one in here for testing soon. As like the MacBook Pro design with the 760M for gaming sounds pretty awesome. So that was E3. If you missed any of that, I don't know, search E3 on PCPer.com. We had a whole bunch of news items and stuff covered while I was there from a lot of guys that were not at E3. I just went to meet with AMD and NVIDIA and see what they were up to. But it was an interesting show. We won't get into too much of the console stuff. We'll talk about Xbox One's 180-degree change on their stuff in a little bit too. Let's talk about some other news items quickly as I look at my watch. Intel preventing overclocking of non-K Haswell processors, and they're stripping virtualization and TSX features from the overclockable K parts. So, riddle me this. If you have a non-overclocking friendly CPU, like the 4770, non-overclocking friendly, like the 4770, any non-K series part, you have access to features like virtualization improvement and virtualization acceleration. Yeah, there you go, VTD, and TSX, which is the transactional memory support. That's great, right? But on the K-series parts, you do not have access to those technologies, which is odd, but I feel like it's something they've done in the previous generations as well with Sandy Bridge and Ivy Bridge. So it's kind of like a continuation of that, even though it doesn't really make sense. Because if I buy a 4770K...
It's all artificial market segmentation.
Yeah, but
because they have no competition at the high end. I
agree, but what is the benefit of taking that out? Like, why do you want somebody who is also maybe an overclocker to not run virtual machines? Like, it's just like if I want to run virtual machines on my desktop.
Well, if you're an overclocker and want to run virtual machines, you got to pay for the Xeon because it'll have higher performance.
But it won't be
and you pay us
overclockable.
more money.
But it won't be
Yeah,
overclockable.
I mean, Josh may be onto something too. I mean, they may be trying to leave room for the E processors coming out. The Haswell E's coming out in 2014. End of 2014.
Maybe at the end of it, yeah. But I mean, that's such a
Yeah.
long lead up to that. It doesn't make any sense. So like the whole thing about them kind of taking away a little bit more of the overclocking capability from the non-K SKUs, like it sucks, but I get it, right? Like, fine, sure, get that extra $20 or $30 out of people who want to do overclocking, and it kind of makes sense. At least then the segmentation has a purpose. You want to overclock your chip, pay us a little bit extra. We'll allow you to change the multipliers, and boom, you can go along your way. But to take functionality, like, I don't want to say it's core functionality, but feature functionality out of a part just because you
I
also
think I
might
had
want to run it
my
at
point
4.5
actually
gigahertz.
backwards.
What's that?
That professionals are taking these K chips and they're wanting to put them in virtualized environments and overclock them a little bit, get better performance.
You think?
So they want then these guys who would take these lower cost parts, $300, $330, and they're stripping the virtualization away so that they are then either accepting lower performance with the virtualization, or they go to a higher end Xeon E or Xeon, well, whatever Xeon chip is that will be comparable to that in terms of overall performance.
Ken was telling me that it's not completely like locked out of virtual. Obviously, you can still virtualize systems on a K series part, but VTX and VTD are two different technologies, and looks like one of them is not enabled. Here, I can do this the easy way. VTD is disabled on K SKUs. Okay, but VTX is still an option there. So let's see if it says it. vPro technology, no. VTX, yes. Virtualization technology, directed I/O, VTD. That is a no. That is a continues from existing support of VTX. I can't blah blah blah. Can help end users improve security and reliability of systems, and also improve performance of I/O devices in virtualized
That's
environments.
essentially IOMMU,
Okay.
from what I understand.
Okay, for virtualized systems.
Yeah.
So it's just a dumb thing. It doesn't, like, I guess your argument here makes a little bit more sense. Maybe semi-professionals, prosumers, if you like that term, will take a 4770K, overclock it, and then run their
Have a
servers on
super
it. I don't-
duper VM.
Sure, great, have fun. I mean, I don't know. It just seems like one of those things that they shouldn't do it. And you're right. It's because they don't have any competition at the high end, and there's no one pushing them to not do those things. So the non-overclocking of non-K series parts sucks. I agree, for people that like to just buy as inexpensive a processor as they can and push it a little bit further. You may not be able to do that this time. I'll be curious to see how hard of a lock that is. If companies like Asus and MSI and Gigabyte kind of can figure out a way around those things, they've done in years past in terms of overclockability. So we will keep an eye on that stuff.
Well, Ryan, one
Yeah.
other point. They did the same thing with the BGA processors. The BGA processors are the only ones that have the enhanced graphics cores with Haswell,
Yeah.
as well as that new high-speed memory.
Sure.
Sharing things, so-
Their argument in that space is that people that buy a 4770 aren't going to use the integrated graphics to begin with. But I wholeheartedly agree with you that it's stupid for them to not offer a SKU that has GT3 capability, or especially GT3E, which is the one with the embedded DRAM on it, capability on a desktop, LGA 1150 socket, and they are not doing that. They're only doing that on the BGA portions, despite all of our requests for the contrary when all the media was meeting with Intel last month or 2 months ago, or whenever the hell it was. So yeah, they're creating these kind of artificial segmentations. Everybody does this to some degree with their processor and their GPU lineups and that kind of stuff. It's just when somebody tells you that, it just sucks. but it's going to happen, and that's the way it's going to be. Maury mentioned this a little bit ago about Haswell E coming holiday 2014. This is the Enthusiast lineup. Looks like holiday 2014. So yeah, end of 2014, which means before Haswell E, we'll see Ivy Bridge E still. And apparently we're looking at 8-core desktop CPUs with hyper-threading, so 16 threads on these processors. 40 lanes of PCIe Gen 3 still, so you can support up to 4 discrete graphics cards on there. All processors will be unlocked. Quad-channel memory, and DDR4. DDR4 memory, guys. That's another number higher for your system
What does
memory.
Joe Macri say about DDR?
I don't know. We'll have to ask JDEC next time I see him.
We saw that at CES. That was that
Yeah.
Micron thing, right?
Yeah, we just barely saw DDR4 for the first time. So, when this comes out, it'll be the first platform to support DDR4, I think. So expect maybe Broadwell. I don't know. But it'll be
Yeah,
expensive.
Broadwell's. It's not coming out anytime soon.
Okay.
They've got problems with 14 nanometer.
I've got problems with 14 nanometer, but I don't want to get into
It's
it.
too small, just like me.
Too tiny. So, if we go from Ivy Bridge E to Haswell E, we're talking about upping it from 6 cores to 8 cores. Interesting that they had, well, this is a leak slide. It's not an Intel presentation, but they're talking about Ivy Bridge E, which is also a product that is not out yet. Haswell E will have up to 20 megs of cache, which is pretty awesome. 130 to 140 watt TDP. LGA 2011 socket, but there's a -3 behind it, which would indicate to me that it is not going to be pin compatible. Obviously, it can't be because you got to have DDR4 memory support on it. Quad channel, though. So there you go. For those of you who want super high-end stuff, it's still coming. Still coming.
A little bit
don't
later
think
than
there's-
expected.
Was there
but
that many more
still
pins on
coming.
DDR4? I don't remember.
I honestly have no idea.
Oh yeah, there was.
It's like 1,000
was.
pins.
They had to make
No.
they had to slightly not bevel, but like angle or like the slot, the PCB was
Instead of like offset.
curved where it went in, so
pins.
that as you
Really?
push it in the board, it would only bend like half the pins back and then the other half of the pins back. It was kind of weird.
Nice. Innovation, everybody, on the DIMM
Yeah.
slot. God,
And now
help us.
with the DDR4, Ryan, if they're releasing the Dash E 2011 socket in the holiday season, we could probably assume that they will be releasing a dual channel version, a consumer version for the 1150 or whatever socket they're on by that time, in middle of 2015, I would think, because that was what that.
You're talking about- you're
that
talking
was
about
what they did
Haswell?
with the X79. They kind of followed each other.
Wait.
initial
X79
release.
followed what?
Well, the wasn't the 2079 the first release of? God, what am I thinking? Yeah,
X79 was Sandy Bridge E. It came out after Sandy Bridge.
right.
And then
no,
Ivy
that
Bridge E will
that
come
was
out
the
after
year.
Ivy Bridge. Haswell E comes out after Haswell.
Yeah,
So after Haswell E will be Broadwell, and then death to everybody because the DIY market will just be completely gone, and we won't even have a podcast anymore because what are we going to talk about?
So I linked the CES post and I thought it was kind of comical because in that same Micron post, it was where they announced 20 nanometer Crucial M500 at 60 cents a gig. Like that happened.
It did happen.
It was released, but it's not 60 cents a gig.
I think somebody
Seems to
just
be a
didn't.
trend.
I think somebody just didn't cut this straight. If you're asking me,
No, I'm telling you, I looked at it in person. That was actually like a curve on purpose.
weird.
Yeah, weird.
Weird. Hey, look, CES. Remember that, guys? Nope.
Hey,
me
wait, was
neither.
that an M2 SSD?
This one?
No, that was just MSATA.
Oh.
No.
Wait, look, different pin configurations and notches.
Word.
Go back.
No.
Fine.
You can click on it yourself and look at it if you want to. I guess is what I'm saying.
The bottom one was M2, damn it.
I don't want to spend a whole lot of time in this story because it changed a lot over the course of 24 hours. There was a story that came out from IGN, gaming website, that said AMD was going to have exclusive optimization rights for all Frostbite 3.
Frostbrite.
Frostbite.
Isn't that like a cute children's character? Frostbrite.
No, I think you just made that
You've
up.
never seen that?
No.
You don't live with my children, do you?
Not
Probably
that
a
you
good
know
thing.
of. Frostbite 3 games. And the specific quote that caused me a lot of concern was, while NVIDIA-based systems will be supported, the company won't be able to develop and distribute updated drivers until after each game is released. Now, since this story came out and I wrote this editorial about it, AMD has come out and said that it was wrong, that the agreement between AMD and EA is a non-exclusive and gamers using other components will be supported. The EA rep said this does not exclude DICE from working with other partners to ensure players have a great experience across a wide set of PCs for all of their titles. So essentially, I was told that the IGN editor just
He took a story and
made it all up.
ran
I
on to
guess.
the boondocks.
So he was at E3 and he met with some people from AMD and he met with some people from EA. And they apparently said some stuff about Battlefield 4 and the partnership between AMD and EA and DICE in that regard. And he somehow extrapolated that out into the specific wording of NVIDIA won't be able to develop and distribute updated drivers until after each game is released.
Otherwise known as Project Surprise Butt Sex.
Right. I don't get it, but
For NVIDIA!
it's not.
I mean, we're supposed to release drivers on
Well,
game day release.
So
Guess
here's,
what?
This is a problem that exists in the industry for as long as I've been in it. Right, the whole who's cheating on what and who is working with the developer to cut out the other guy, right? And it's always in the past it's always been NVIDIA as the bad guy. The majority of the time, right? NVIDIA's always been the company that's hyper aggressive. They're always the one that goes out of the way to kind of like create stuff like PhysX and exclude AMD from it, or they bought PhysX, or do things like, as I use examples in the story, with Assassin's Creed. The first Assassin's Creed was coming out on PC. We talked about with the developers and stuff about it having DX 10.1 support. Well, then it became the way it's meant to be played game, and DX 10.1 support kind of disappeared. And it just so happened that at this time, AMD GPUs supported DX 10.1, NVIDIA GPUs did not. You look at, what was the other game? Batman, Arkham Asylum, that had NVIDIA supported in-game anti-aliasing. AMD did not, even though they submitted bug fixes for Arkham Asylum. It was never fixed, right? And that was the way it's meant to be played game. And everybody, AMD came out and said, hey, they didn't really say it like in a public release, but everything we heard was they're doing this on purpose to screw us. There were blogs about it, and there was lots of information going back and forth about it. And now the idea here, if this had been true, if it is true, everybody is telling me that it's not, would be that AMD is now kind of using its advantage that it is in all the consoles to get these partnerships with these developers and try to figure out ways to slowly cut NVIDIA out of that so they can reap the benefit in the more profitable PC discrete GPU markets. Like I said, this all changed. I was much more angry about this yesterday than I am today because they came back
I'm glad
and denied
you calmed
it all.
down.
We'd even talked about me dropping my mic and walking off of the
Yeah,
virtual stage here.
I'm out of here.
I'm done. So this all comes down to that, like, the whole debate is with AMD in the consoles, Xbox One, PS4, Wii U, kind of. Are they going to have a very solid advantage with developers going forward? Are they going to be able to reap this benefit on the PC market with discrete sales, APU sales, and that kind of stuff? NVIDIA says no. AMD says yes. Go figure. AMD says it's almost like a given because they're developing for consoles that are using AMD hardware. That will roll over. NVIDIA says no. AMD has never spent enough time with developers. They've never invested enough money and personnel into working with developers, getting things right, and that we are going to continue to still do that. Right? That's NVIDIA's stance. We don't know how it's going to pan out. Both companies have been very mad at me over the past week because I have said things that they don't like about. I think NVIDIA is going to have to work harder than they've ever had to work to maintain those developer relations. And AMD is mad because I am not saying NVIDIA is totally out of it yet. So there's a lot of back and forth going on here. And this whole thing that really started when Roy Taylor at AMD like retweeted this IGN story, right? So it's like, okay, it gets a little bit more credibility when I see it on a VP's Twitter feed. And then to be totally denied by AMD and now by EA, and the IGN story has changed. It's all
Yeah, have you noticed that Roy's been a little bit quieter this week?
I don't know.
A little bit.
Maybe.
I've been keeping
Sure.
track.
Okay. You should count. Look up Twitter stats on him and see if we could see a decrease in that. He means well. Well, he means well for AMD since that's where he works now. And it's interesting, but you're getting put foot in your mouth, right? I mean, if a VP at AMD says, "Oh, look, Frostbite 3 exclusively optimized for AMD," and links back to that story, it gains a lot of credibility. People like me write about it. Hours and hours later, somebody at AMD says, "Oh no, it's never was that. Here's what actually happened."
Well, Roy has kind of taken this new social media thing that in the past
Yeah.
6 years really has not existed. And we can look back at what are your favorite websites in the late 90s and how were they driven? Voodoo Extreme, Hard OCP. These were websites that had actual faces. They had character.
Yeah.
They had, people that you could relate to. I don't know how you could really relate to Billy Wicked Wilson. I mean, the guy was just insane. But boy, you'd love to read his posts about, lubed up dwarves with
It had
weed
personality.
whackers. Yeah, I mean it's personality, and that's what Roy is trying to do as well.
Yeah.
And I mean this is all social media, is that you can connect with a company because they have a face. This is something that Intel hasn't really done. NVIDIA hasn't really done that for a long while. I mean, yeah, we've got Jensen Huang, but remember back in the late 90s when we had Derek Perez at NVIDIA versus Brian Burke at 3DFX.
Yep.
I mean, people knew these guys. I mean, they were just absolutely livid when, one said one thing about the other. And, I mean, it was just, I mean, the fanboyism and the following, I mean, it was visceral. It was something that people really reacted to. And I think Roy's trying to do this. And, of course, when you're just retweeting and communicating with others, sometimes you're going to do some bad information.
Right.
And it certainly seems like
It's
it's a point.
it's just we're going long as it is, but it's like literally in the span of 48 hours, I was yelled at. Maybe not yelled at. That's the right word. I was told how much of a stooge, a crony I was for NVIDIA by the other team, and vice versa. How much of a free pass I give AMD. That's what I was told by people at NVIDIA. Right, literally in the span of 48 hours, I was told I had these phone calls with people at either of these companies, and the saying always goes, if you have people saying you're biased against one and people saying you're biased against another, that means you're doing something correct, right? You're telling the truth. You're going down the middle. The people at AMD don't like the frame rating technology. They don't like the results that it shows. That sucks. But they're fixing it. They can hate me later, but they're fixing it, right? And that's what we're here for. Is we want, as Josh and I had this conversation yesterday, is like we exist for the readers. We don't exist for NVIDIA or AMD or Intel or MSI or Asus or any of those guys, right? We exist for the readers. They come to the website. They pay the bills, essentially. And NVIDIA doesn't like a lot of stuff that we do. AMD doesn't like a lot of stuff to do. Intel's very apathetic about most things because they have so much money. They don't really care what most people do.
Oh no, we got Intel to hate us.
That's true. Intel did hate Alan for quite a long
This
time.
guy, Intel
Yeah.
hated me for a little while.
Right? But what did they do? Did they fix it?
They fixed it.
They fixed it, right? And
Yep.
they didn't hate us at the end of the day, right?
Nope.
They hated us in the interim, but they didn't hate us at the end of the day. And I just, it's too much politics in this. For everybody out there that if you write a comment on our story about how we swing towards AMD or we swing towards NVIDIA, just know that it's absolutely not the case. We give our honest opinions and trust us. For every time you say we are NVIDIA fanboys, AMD is saying it 10 times. And every time you say we're AMD fanboys, NVIDIA is saying that 10 times to us as well. So it's not all peachy in the world of hardware reviewing. Like I literally I don't know, I was very angry yesterday. I just wanted to walk off, I'm out, done. Just But unfortunately, I don't have another job, so
Bills to pay.
I don't know what else I would do. I don't. I guess I don't know. I don't know.
Comp sci. Fall back on that comp sci degree.
People still need Java developers, right? Right, that's a thing.
Yeah.
People still use Java.
Hey, Android. It's
Yeah.
all kind of sort of Java based.
All right, let's jump through these last news bits very quickly because I ranted there. ECS reveals its first motherboard with AMD Kabini, the KBNI. Get it? The KBNI. It's a mini ITX motherboard with the Kabini
I'd
A6.
buy that for $1.
Well, you're going to have to pay more than that, I bet. A6 5200 APU with the AMD Radeon HD 8400 graphics. Did you know that Kabini had the HD 8400 graphics? That's more than we have on our desktop. We're only at 7900 on the desktop. You don't care?
No.
I'm curious, this statistic here says offers 50% longer battery life performance.
Because you're going to plug your motherboard in to a battery.
Yeah, no, I know. This is from the ECS press release. All right. So there you go. Kabini motherboards, they're coming.
Build a home theater PC.
You can build a nice, really, really low power, hopefully low. Did they mention a price in here at all? No, nothing yet. But like that's kind of what we wanted, right? What we want is where are all the mini ITX GT3, GT3E motherboards. Let's see what they compete against Kabini or whatever, Richland, and go from there. So those are coming. I don't. Does anybody have anything to say about Steam might be allowing shared games?
I got a family of 4. I would love it.
Do you have multiple computers in your house? I guess it's kind of a dumb question.
You got more computers than people in the house.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So what's interesting? So apparently, some people found if you downloaded the Steam beta, there were notes in here about shared status, shared licenses for games. Very interesting, especially considering our next bit of news about the Xbox One. So the Xbox One was announced.
The X-Bone.
The Xbone had all this stuff about you're going to have to check in every 24 hours if you're logged in on a non-home Xbox One, like like your friend's house. It's not going to check in every hour. But the cool things is you could lend these games digitally. You could your family could play on them up to 10 people. That was pretty cool, except for the whole thing that people got really upset about the DRM, no offline play. So they took away all those cool features and instead said, fine, use your damn discs. And they announced today that they were reverting on the 24-hour auto check-in DRM. You can be able to play offline. You can be able to play with just a disc. You don't have to be online ever, except for the first time you set up the system. You can trade them in at GameStop. GameStop stock went up like 7 or 8%. So they kind of reverted on a lot of that stuff. But as a consequence, or because of that, the family sharing stuff is gone, and because of that, I wonder if maybe now Steam says like, oh well, we're not a feature behind the consoles anymore. We'll just let this slide. What do you think?
There's some positives and negatives. It's nice to have a more open platform, but at the same time, if they could promise a decent DRM type feature that's not going to screw you over. If theoretically what they say could happen is that you'll get far cheaper games, just like Steam is able to do.
In theory.
In theory,
Yeah.
I mean, how, stinking, I'm going to get BioShock Infinite. It's on sale today at Steam for Midweek Madness, and I can get it for $15 less than the full price.
Right.
Okay, and you can do this when you have better control overall who has the games, who's buying the games, who's playing it, whatever.
When Ken and I were talking today, I'm always online. My internet connection is very reliable. I don't ever take my Xbox camping or anything like that, so I don't need offline play. I don't ever live on a submarine. So, like the idea of an always online system.
The happiest days of Alan's life. Living on the submarine.
they don't really bother me. The idea of having an always online system doesn't really bother me. But the idea of, hey, my brother-in-law could share these games as one of my 10 family members, that's actually pretty cool. The idea that I could go to Ken's and like log into my account and we could play whatever game I've purchased, even if I didn't bring the disc or I didn't have any of that kind of stuff. Yeah, those are cool things, right? But there was too much pushback from the idea of not having used games, of not being able to do offline gaming. I understand that part of it. I really do. If it were up to me, I think maybe they should offer you both choices. Would you like to have the always online version, or would you like to be the offline guy? Do you live in a submarine, or do you live in a house with internet?
Do you go out of the country often with your Xbox?
Right. That should be the
Or do you
first
stay in Florence, Kentucky?
first startup screen. Submarine, house with internet, right? And then you just pick one, and it goes from there, right? Submarine / cabin / I don't know, underground bunker. You can get internet there. Who am I kidding? Yeah, right. So I don't know. Any other feedback on that, Alan? You are a proponent of the fact that yes, a lot of people in the military do take these gaming consoles with them when they go overseas, or they, are, like I said, on a sub or on a ship.
Listen, it's not just that. I mean, sometimes you just don't have internet. You know what I mean? It's kind of ridiculous.
I get it. No, I agree that the 24-hour thing was
Okay, I'm in
hard.
Wyoming. Do you know how often I have not had internet?
Just sometimes you don't.
Oh my god,
Just
it's like
saying.
5 times in the past 6 years that I have not had internet for like
I think
more than an hour span.
I agree. I think having the online component is not bad necessarily. 24 hours was a little bit too small of a window. Like if I wanted to take my console someplace, so say I take my console to my mother-in-law's house. They have internet there, but I don't really want to have to screw with it, right? Like I don't want to have to say, hey, do you know your Wi-Fi password? And she'll be like, I absolutely have no idea what my Wi-Fi password is. They set it up when they were here. It's not the MAC ID in the bottom of the router. Oh, we'll just log into the router and figure. Oh, what's the password into the router? I don't really know. Do we have an Ethernet cable
let me
here?
plug this,
I don't
this
have an
cable
Ethernet cable
into the back of your router and the back of my machine.
But you don't have an Ethernet cable, and you don't want to go to Best Buy and pay $50 for one that's going to reach from wherever that stupid cable modem is to the TV, right? So there are instances where it's like, you know what? I'm taking it up there for the weekend or for a couple of days for Christmas, so that me and Zach can play Halo 8 or whatever the hell it is.
And you get mad at him and rip out that whole lip ring thing.
Exactly.
The point.
There was
the point
much
of all this,
rejoicing.
you're having to go through all these hoops to figure out. The point is it's an unnecessary requirement. It shouldn't be there in the first place. You shouldn't have to even think about that. It's a freaking console.
I don't.
Ken's only problem is he doesn't want to use discs anymore. And with this reversion to this platform, now the disc is your
He and
authentication.
Colleen should really
Oh.
get together. But not that way.
So I agree. Like, I wish they would have been able to figure out a way to say you don't have to use your disc. The idea of hot swapping between games, go from Halo 8 to Call of Duty 17 without having to get up and swap the discs. That's great. That would be cool. Hold on, Ken wants to say something. Everybody.
One of the cool features they were touting with the Xbox One is that you could be playing, I don't know, Madden and be matchmaking in Halo at the same time. Can't do that anymore. Can't load both games at the same time.
Were they saying that?
Yes.
I thought it was XBL, Xbox Live games / watching TV while.
I'm pretty sure it was playing.
I don't
two
think you'd be able to
games.
play two games because of the way
No,
the
you can't-
VMs work.
Yeah, it's 2 VMs. One the
Well,
entertainment, the other the game
yeah.
playing.
Yeah, you can't do game.
But I agree. Even then, it's well, I'm watching TV through my Xbox One HDMI input. I want to look for a Halo game. Oh, damn it!
I've
The
got
Madden disc is in
drive.
the
That's
thing,
when you
so
need to
there you
buy
go.
the Google Glass accessory, so you can do all three, right?
Whatever. I guess if I buy an Xbox One, I'll just be downloading games.
Yeah, and you'll be able to do that if you do the download only, right? Because then
It'd
you won't
be
have
nice
a
to
disc.
not have to download 30
But then you
gigs,
can't
though,
trade that in.
especially
You
with
can't
caps.
can't give that to your friends. The same thing.
What's
It's
the
like running
biggest drive that the Xbox One has? now?
500.
What?
It's
500
a
gig.
500 gig
It's
drive.
500 gig
Yeah.
drive.
That's plenty. That's plenty of space.
And I think you can. I think you can attach external drives as well.
Yeah, it's got USB 3 port.
They should have gone with some kind of implementation like Steam has. I mean, you can run Steam. You can tell it to auto log in if you want. You can force it to force you to put in a username and password every time, or you can set it to offline mode. I mean, this 24-hour check-in was just Microsoft wanting to control the user experience. I mean, that's what this whole Xbox One is controlling the experience between you and your TV or whatever other entertainment device
the
you
reason
have.
they had it was simply to allow this type of sharing without being exploited, right? The whole idea of, yes, your home Xbox has to check in once every 24 hours, but if you log into an away Xbox, it has to log in every hour, because that way you don't go to all your friends' houses, log in, okay, we all have 24 hours now to beat BioShock Infinite, and we only had to pay one copy for the 10 of us to play, right?
Well,
Like
yeah,
that
but
kind of thing.
Well, you
if
can
they
do it
wanted
in
to
10
a shared
hours, so that's
thing,
not
they
a
could have
problem.
just said that. They could have just said, okay, it's your account, just like Steam. If I log
Yep.
into Steam in one computer, it logs me out of Steam on the other computer. I can't use two instances of Steam with the same account.
And I think you'll be able to do that if you don't buy the disc versions of the Xbox One games. You have to re-download it, obviously, on the different Xbox, but it'll be just like Xbox Live games. You have to be logged in order to play them.
So instead, people are just going to figure out how to hack the thing.
No,
and
they're
then
not.
They're all just going to
Yeah,
play it.
When you say they, you mean like
they're gonna get
0.001% of the
banned
audience that they're selling
from
to,
Xbox Live.
right?
I mean, like kids like my teenage daughter and her friends. It's
They're not-
Your
they're
teenage daughter doesn't have any friends.
They're not hacking the Xbox 360 to enable
got
them all to
soldering
play
irons out.
Dance Evolution 3 from multiple locations. Is that a game?
No.
I don't know. Let's move on. It's all changed. Everything we said 2 weeks ago is totally wrong now. It's all better if you like discs. Discs, Josh.
Yeah.
Hardware software picks of the week. Here we go. I have a multimeter. And you know what it
Lame
does?
pick.
Do you know what it does? Watch this.
That's a lame. Well, you better do something awesome.
Watch.
Hey, it's a
It does
fluke.
the Mario song.
It's a really nice multimeter.
Well,
Listen.
you could have just said fluke, and that would be a good pick. But what's this specific one do?
117. It does this.
Hey, did you know our table was conductive?
Our table
So you-
is conductive.
So you have it on diode mode. Congratulations.
The thing on the microphone is not.
Yeah, that's bringing up metal.
Ryan, you can buy a multimeter at Radio Shack that does the same thing for like $20.
But it's not a fluke.
But it's not a fluke.
But
Well,
it's
it's not
Ryan.
a
He
fluke,
had to
but
spend
it's
300.
only $20, and it does the same thing.
Is my finger conductive? Is it?
Nipples.
Get sweaty.
Nipple conductivity.
Ryan, you have to put it on the mega ohm scale for your finger to be conductive.
Okay.
Then you'll get something. It won't beep though.
Ooh, here we go. Going up. 8,
Squeeze it tighter.
8.3, 8.5.
And harder. Faster.
8 point. Ooh, we're up to 9. 9.04.
Mega ohms is
Yeah.
our host. Congratulations.
Is that good? Is that a good score?
I don't know.
Did I
How much
win?
You're sweating.
So, I don't really know how to use any of this yet, but it's cool.
Don't go anywhere near the power phase of a graphics card with that.
Oh.
Why not?
Next week, Ryan's gonna have.
What
an
will,
assault.
wait. Tell me what will happen. I want to know now.
I'm going to have a stack of bricks.
What?
Huh?
What? All right.
Okay, Ken, you need to buy Ryan a thing called a Megger and have him do that same trick while you turn the handle really fast.
This
Don't do
sounds
it,
fun.
Ken.
I like this.
It'll
Don't do it,
measure the
Ken.
resistance. I promise. Except
I
Ryan will
think
do a
you're
little
trying
dance.
to kill me.
Not kill, just maim.
All right, Josh, you're up
Me.
next. What's your pick?
You know, I bought one of these the other day for work.
Abu
Happy
Dhabi.
with it. What?
You bought Abu Dhabi.
Abu Dhabi.
Abu
That's a lot of sand to
Dhabi.
buy. And it's got some really amazing architecture there. You've been there before and raced around a racetrack,
I
haven't
did. Oh, why didn't you buy one of these?
Because it's got lots of threads and decent amount of cache and memory bandwidth.
Oh. Here, I thought you bought a T-shirt from another country.
Why did you buy one of these?
Yeah, I guess so. How do you like yours?
It fits in this case real nice, right here.
Nice.
This is a 6378. Is that a thing? Yeah, there we go. 6378. It's
It's
big.
so odd to see AMD with an LGA.
It's big. Yeah, it is. You're right.
And that's heavy. Yeah, you could throw that at somebody's forehead and cause
Dude,
a
these,
gash.
these, I think you can kill somebody. These corners are sharp. If you hit it just right, if you Jackie
It's
Chan
the
that shit,
AMD
you can do
throwing
it.
processors.
It's the AMD Ninjas.
Yes.
The two processors.
So
glued together.
this is 12 cores, right? Or is this a 6 module part essentially?
It's 6 module.
Okay, 6 module, 12 core. Gotcha. I got another one here too.
Show it off.
Oh, trust me, it's in here. I won't bother opening it up.
All right.
All right. Next, Alan.
You'll have to open pictures because my picture probably won't be that good. So usually I have one of these things on your keychain, Ryan. Josh.
That looks
All you guys.
like a strange gynecological tool that
That's not one of its 6 uses. I assure you.
You sure?
Well, maybe yeah. They just can't advertise it.
Right. So what am I looking at? What's it do?
It's like
It's
got a
painful.
a couple of screwdrivers. It's a bunch of little. It's like a little multi-tool, bottle opener stuff, and then you clip it on your keychain. Like doesn't really show it in their picture, but
Well, hold on.
like
I got other pictures.
So
Boom.
like there, it's on my it's on my keys.
Like that. Swiss Tech
just clip it on there.
Utility.
And so you use to open boxes and all kinds of junk, cut stuff.
Can I
Probably
break
cut
into
through
cars?
a door in an airliner or something.
Check out that 3D animation.
You might be able to
Ken.
break into cars with the other one if you click on the keychain instead of the tools link.
oh,
Right.
3D animation rocks.
Boom.
This
Look
is,
at the size of my key.
This was done in OpenCL.
Tool.
I'm sure of it.
Mm-hmm.
This is suddenly reminding me that I backed something similar on Kickstarter.
See,
and
there
I
you
have
go.
No clue what the status
Voila.
of it is.
Nice. All right. You got another
And then
item?
there's actually another pick in there too. If
What's
you
this?
click on keychain instead of tools, it's
Yeah.
like their bigger version of it.
That's the three.
got
I
all
think
sorts
it
of
looks
junk
like
on
a transformer creature.
Yes,
These
it
aren't even
does,
real
Josh.
pictures. These are all fake pictures. Does this thing
those are all
exist?
fake, but I don't have the real one of those because I opted for the cheaper one.
I don't think the real one exists.
You don't think? No, I've seen it
I
at the
think
store.
Optimus Prime uses that as, when he
That's whoa.
That was fake.
circumcises new
Roll that back.
Transformers.
Roll that back. That was fake.
Hold on. Ken
What
says
was
this
so
video
fake
is
about it?
fake. Hold on.
What?
Watch this. Watch this. Josh will
That's
know.
his,
Watch
that's
this.
his Moheel tool.
Why does it say Leatherman on the side?
Oh, dude. He just made that wire. Oh, man. Now he just... I don't know what he just did.
I am
actually.
so destroying your keys.
That bottle cap was already off.
Yeah, for this I would recommend like.
It's a straight edge. If you
I
have
can
very
only
tiny
measure 3
straight
inches at a time.
That's totally.
Why do
not
I even need a
the
tool for that?
Oh,
craft paper.
Josh, Josh has a
look
tool
at
for
that.
that.
Josh has a
Mark
tool.
off
for
That
Three
stud
inches.
is
No,
only
you
3
need a
Joshes
tool.
wide.
God.
Oh, my goodness.
More, do you have a pick, or are we out?
I didn't have time for a pick, but
Okay.
I guess I can show something off. I got.
Oh, no, no! Oh,
I
okay,
took
that's
apart
fine.
my
then.
power supply.
What?
See, wait. You can't see. Yeah, you can sort of see. Yeah, see that? That's my
Yeah.
phase 1 of my QuakeCon build. I'm
What-
gonna.
what did you just show me?
re-sleeve my. I'm gonna re-sleeve. I'm gonna make the power supply fully modular, and re-sleeve it with paracord. So, kind of had to take it out of my system to do
All
that
right.
though.
All right. All right. You mentioned QuakeCon, so I guess I have to say something about it. As far as I know, we're still doing the workshop there, although I've sent a couple of emails trying to figure out. They wanted us to do it on Friday, and I really don't want to do it on Friday. I really need to do it on Saturday because that's when we can get all the people there. But I haven't heard back yet. And we're getting close to...
That's only like 40
we're
days.
like 6 weeks away, right? Less than that, I think.
Really.
Look, this is simple. If they want you to give away thousands and thousands of dollars worth of stuff, they should do it on the day that you can get there.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Priorities, man.
I've probably given
should
away.
be- there should be
not
perhaps a
probably.
posting.
I've given away 6 figures worth of hardware at this.
Somebody
thing since
should
I've been
post
going.
about this on their forum.
I think they already
Carmack
are.
should like spend half of his time in his usual talk because the second half is usually so
Well, Josh,
esoteric.
Are you sure he could fit
and
it all in
everybody's
3 hours?
sleeping.
That is the best nap I get all year.
Ken does
Yeah,
usually
second
sleep.
half.
at-
Well, it's
at
after like a
speed.
14-hour drive.
Right. That is our problem. Is we drive straight through the night for 15 hours and then go to a John Carmack keynote. It's not his fault necessarily, but it's very tiring. So that's going to be it for the show this week. Got to finish this thing off. Next week I will not be here again. The rest of the crew. I'm sorry. And maybe I just killed all of our audience for next week because they won't show up knowing that Josh or Jeremy or somebody else is going to be in charge. I don't know. Sorry, guys. I won't be
Okay.
here. I will be in
In
London.
England in the summertime with my love.
Well, if I meet her, then that's fine.
Yes.
Be in London learning about processors and then having bangers and mash. Probably for 9 days straight. So yeah, I won't be here next week, but we will have tons of content coming up. We've got a MacBook Air review going up. We have a Yoga 11S review going up. We have Josh has another editorial coming up about AMD, right?
Yes. And a
Intel.
3-card roundup of budget video graphics.
And Alan, you have something that's queued up almost ready too, right?
That's actually ready to go.
But what is it?
Intel Enterprise Storage Roundup.
All right. And Maury, what's your next item?
I have an Asus Z87 Pro that's queued up. I'm working on the Z87 M Power, and yeah, that's it for now. Maybe a Gigabyte OC Force,
All right.
but we'll see.
My next project is to work on the frame rating story for the HD 5000, HD 4600 graphics, Trinity graphics. I don't have Richland. Did I test Richland?
I don't know.
I don't know.
You
if I
got
did.
Richland.
Yeah, I don't know if I actually tested
think
it
you
because
did.
I was trying to do like mobile side stuff, and then 760M performance kind of comparison there. So maybe tomorrow we'll have like 9 articles to release. So make sure you read them all. But if not, we'll space them out over a couple of days. So lots of great content, lots of great content coming up on PCPer.com. So make sure you check it out. PCPer.com/live is the URL where you can watch us do the show live. You can see all the pre-show antics/technical difficulties occur in real time. We apologize for not having Jeremy, but he's better off watching hockey anyway. And PCPer.com/podcast is the URL we would like you to share with forums, friends, spray painting on people's houses. I don't really care. Get the word out. We want to know that people are listening and watching the show. If you want to catch the video replays, youtube.com/PCPer is the best place to get that. You can just subscribe to our channel there and you'll get notifications anytime we post it. Or you can go to PCPer.com/podcast and we post the videos with our show notes and everything every week. So with that, we will end the show. I'm Ryan Schrout.
I'm Josh Walrath.
I'm Alan Malentano.
And I'm Maury Tattleman.
Bye, guys.